In this video, we're going to be taking a look at several ways you can get more out of your power rack without spending a lot of money. We'll be looking at how to number your post, getting your safety bars adjusted correctly for your bench press, some tips on flooring, stabilizing your power rack, extending your rack, and much more. One thing I always point out in all of my power tool reviews, which applies to power racks as well, is make sure you read, understand, and apply all the operational and safety instructions that come with your rack and the accessories. In this video, I'm going to be using a Titan T2 short power rack, and don't hate me, but I got it on Craigslist for $50. Most all of what you'll see in this video will apply to many of the power racks on the market today. So let's get started. I wanted to provide some stabilization to my rack as well as find a way to store my older 1-inch standard plates. So I picked up some conduit at one of the big box stores, cut it down to a size that works for the amount of plates that I have, and I put one on either side. I actually have 100 pounds on each side, so I've got 200 pounds of stabilization holding this rack down, especially since I cannot bolt it into the floor. Having these weights on the end like this make it very easy for me to move them over to my lat pull down. And you'll notice I've got two 24 by 48 sheets of plywood underneath this rack. They fit perfectly. And I have another sheet out front of the same size that just happens to fit underneath the little feet in front of the rack. And this is where I do my standing presses and other moves. This rack did not come with the positions numbered, so I decided to number it with 1/2 inch white vinyl numbers. And I used, in this case, yellow electrical tape to mark where I put my J-hooks. And you'll see further down I used red to mark where I put my safety bars. And of course I did the same thing on all 4 posts. And let's take a look at the numbers that I use for this. So I used these vinyl letters that I picked up on Amazon. You will need a pair of tweezers and a little X-Acto knife or a pair of scissors to be able to peel them off of the sheets. And here's the specifications. I put the link to this in the description below at Amazon.com. And there's the electrical tape that I use. Again, I put the link for this as well in the description below. And you're going to need some glass cleaner and paper towels or a rag to wipe down your post before you apply the letters, because you want to make sure they stick correctly. Many power racks come with a hole spacing that's roughly 2 inches apart. In this case, they're like 2 1/8, which really doesn't allow fine adjustment for when you're setting up your safety bars for your bench press. In this case, it was off for me by at least 3/4 of an inch. So what I did was I took some 3/4 inch board and put it underneath the back legs of my bench, and that raised it up just enough. Otherwise, the bar fell either too high or too low. So experiment with different thicknesses of lumber to get the height just right for you. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have the Titan T2 series rack, and this happens to be the shorter version, so you'll notice that in the back there's only 21 positions, and then in the front there's 23. That's because I drilled 2 additional holes, one for my squat and one for my standing press. This allows me to get under the bar more easily for both of these 2 lifts. If you have the shorter version of the T2 series rack and you're tall enough, you may want to do the same thing. And of course, you'll want to drill the holes on both of the front 2 posts. This being the shorter of the Titan T2 series, the pull-up bar was in the way for when I was doing squats, so I had to create an extension. And I did that with some scrap lumber that I had in my shop. If you decide to do this, make sure you cut out a notch for the bolt at the very top. But all I did was sandwich 3 pieces of lumber together, as you can see from the edge shot here, and then pass some bolts through using washers on the back side. So let's take a look at this side. There you see the longer bolts with washers. And we did the same thing at the top. This raises it up about 12 to 14 inches. And of course it did the same thing on the other side. So as you can see, one side comes down to be bolted on, and then the other side actually rests on that top cross member. When using the J-hooks that came with the rack, I found that when I was racking the bar, it would occasionally catch on the top and then on this little welded spot on the front before it would actually come down and sit in the J-hook, and it just didn't feel right. So I decided to get a longer or taller padded J-hook. This is actually 1 inch taller than the standard J-hook that comes with the rack. When I rack the bar, it hits somewhere about in here and comes down onto the shelf. And it looks like this has a little bit more stability, comparing the two. But I put the link to the padded J-hook in the description below so you can go check that out as well. As you probably saw in your user's manual, periodically you need to go back and check the bolts and nuts to make sure they remain tight, especially if you're using your rack on a regular basis. So take the time to do that every 3 to 6 months. Well, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please press like and share with your friends. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you as a subscriber. Thanks for watching, and as always, good luck on your projects.